Sparkles and Shivs, it's the Con Mom Show. Stephanie
and Sarah. Hi everyone, welcome to Con Moms. It's me, Sarah, and
Stephanie.
And we are here today talking about random facts about ourselves. I feel like we talk about cons and everything. You don't know necessarily everything about us. Wahaha. I mean, I like a little mystery, but I thought we should try to mix it up. Do something a
Who
little
are
fun.
we? Why are we your con mothers? All this and more.
I stumbled across and just ended up here. No. It's a tragic story of woe.
Alas, poor Sarah. I knew her well.
Right? I should have come on wearing some Renaissance costumes. So I honestly should start wearing costumes for these things. I think it'd be fun if I came sometimes and stuff. Yeah.
See, now I'm gonna wear my nice, pretty little corset next time.
Ooh.
I'm gonna do it.
We're gonna work it.
We're gonna work it.
We don't have anywhere to wear these things right now.
No.
Might as well.
We're getting there though. Soon.
Yes, soon. I feel like we're at the point where it's like when you're on a road trip and you're almost to the end and you keep asking every 5 minutes, like, are we there yet?
There yet?
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
It's always like, for me, exactly. For me, it's always like the last hour where it's the worst.
It is.
Especially if you've been waiting for a real long time, and we've been waiting for a real long time. So but yeah, mysterious facts. I guess I'll go first because C does become before M in the alphabet if we're gonna go graduation rights here. So I mean, we're both S's, but I mean, we'll go by last names. So
but even if we just went by the first names, like just the second letter, you're A, I'm T. So
that's true. So either way, I win.
Either way, you win.
I mean, if you go first, I don't think it necessarily means you win because then you have to think real fast, but so 5 random facts about me. We're gonna go one, so we're gonna go back and forth. So you guys are like, what? So my first random fact is I am the oldest of 6 kids. And that is part of where my con mom's nature comes in because I've always been like the mother hen. And that's also why I don't want children ever. Like I feel like I raised 5 of them. I don't want to do that again. So there is 6 of us in 7.5 years with no twins. As an adult woman, I'm impressed, but also a little stressed for my mother. So
I knew you were the oldest, but I don't think I realized you were the oldest of 6.
Yeah, there is 6
that
of us.
Is...
And we're all S names. And our last name is C. Yeah, including my parents and our childhood pet was an S name. Our dog was Skipper. For privacy reasons, I won't be listing all of their names. But
well, yes, naturally.
But we were always I remember watching the Santa Claus movie with Tim Allen growing up, and I was like, oh yeah, SC, those are my initials. That could be Santa. And then of course we all would fight oh well, my initials are SC. So yeah. So that's my first random fact, everyone. I am the oldest of 6 children. My mom jokes and calls us her 6-pack and says that we're all she needs. So
I love that.
What about you,
all right,
Stephanie?
So then my random fact related. My first ever con was also the first con I brought my itty bitty god siblings to. They are my mom's best friend's children who are much younger than I am, by well over a decade. And so the first con I went to, I brought them with me. I made them little autograph books like they were going to Disneyland. Both of them were, I think at the time, under 10. Maybe the oldest was just at 10. I honestly don't remember. But those were, all 3 of us went to our first con together. And that honestly, the bonding experience that I have had with those kids over the past 6 years, is one of the reasons I really want kids so bad. I am burning to be a lesbian mother right now, so bad. And part of that has a lot to do with all of these cool experiences that I have shared with these kids through both
Mm.
cosplay and D&D.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know everybody laughs because I have this plan to like adopt a bunch of teenagers and like pay for their college. So that's like my plan to be like that rich spinster or the fun aunt
I
that's
would
like, I will
love to
adopt
be
all of
that.
you. And
Hmm.
I'm like, it's cool. And I just feel like too, like I've always wanted to adopt. And I feel like too, just teenagers never hardly get adopted at all.
They
It's always
don't.
like
They don't.
kids, little kids.
Yeah.
But that's my
It's
plan later in life.
yeah. It's a whole family planning when you are like, you know, two individuals married together with like
Mm,
the same set of internal organs. It's a
mhm.
whole thing. It's a whole nother level of family planning
Oh,
and
I
all of
bet.
that.
Yeah.
And then it's like trying to figure out like, okay, how do we do this to the way like it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And
Yeah.
trying to be responsible and ethical and all of that. Ugh. Anyway, it's a lot. It's a lot. And COVID did not help. Bastards.
Yeah. I know that's things I don't think about automatically in my brain because I'm cis and straight. So, so like for me, like I don't think about that. So
Yeah.
that would be a cool, interesting conversation to have a separate time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, those are our first fun facts, everyone. My second fun fact. I mean, I own way more books than I own clothes. Like, it's my obsession. It's where all my money goes. Yeah. I'm like, I don't need the latest phone. I want a bunch of books. You have a rare edition of that? Yeah, I will hunt that down. And every time I travel, I try to bring a book home from wherever I go. And then it's cool too because my bookshelf ends up being like a map and it's like a map of all my memories or where I've been. So it's like I have a memory associated to each book. Yeah.
Nice.
And at cons, I always find the book people that are there, and I'm like, "Hello. Yes, I have purchased this for the occasion, and yes, I bring an extra suitcase to bring all my books home." So every time.
I love that.
Oh
I
yeah.
love that. So for me, then my fun fact, and I've shared this on another when we were talking about um, Artist Alley. I
Mhm.
collect fantasy maps. I live for the fantasy maps. I miss the days when like, the old PC games when you like I would got Morrowind as a young teenager, like as, one of my influential games.
Mhm.
And Morrowind and Neverwinter were two of my most influential games as a young teen, and they both came with maps, and that was so cool and so amazing, and tapped into like also my love of reading. When you picked up those fantasy books, there's always a map in the front. You open up the front cover, there is a map, and so I collect fantasy maps, and I have over to the side right here, I have a gallery wall of all of these various fantasy maps of different worlds and realms. I've got Morrowind. Love you. I could go on for ages about how you are pure perfection. And other places. I actually need to redo my map wall because I have gotten additional maps since then, and so I need to move things around, make more space. There's a good couple of feet between the bottom of my current map wall and the floor that I can put more maps in, and I currently have like a 3-foot long map of Faerun, one of the main continents of the D&D world that needs to get hung up. So yeah, that is my big collection. Fantasy maps. I live.
I saw her fantasy map collection at her old house. So I'm very excited to see her new house that she's purchased. I mean, new to me because I haven't been there. She purchased like a year ago, but um
Almost two.
really? Oh, see, oh my god,
Yeah.
you guys, time is going fast.
Fuck
Um,
COVID.
yeah, yes. It's hard for me to say that word. Like I want to be able to say it more, but my brain just like, no, it's all the like programming as a child. um, but I feel that way. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see her wall when I get down there. And we're excited because soonish we'll start be recording episodes in person. We're getting to that point. I'm
It's
so
gonna be so good.
ready. I have to make the trek down there. She lives like 3 hours away from me, so
Yeah. But
but
I am 2 weeks fully vaccinated as of tomorrow at the time of this recording. So
I am so excited, everyone. I'm so excited. And then go hit up IKEA too, because I'm one of those people. So
yeah.
um my third random fact. It's like I what are the ones that are the least embarrassing? No. I will wear before COVID, pre-COVID, because I can't do this right now, but I would wear ball gowns on errands. I will wear them to Costco. I will wear
I
them
love
wherever I
that.
want because life is short and I'm gonna wear that dress. So,
I love that.
yeah. So I really, really, really love ball gowns. Yeah, I literally was going through Costco one time and someone was like, "Why are you wearing the dress? What is the occasion?" I'm like, "It's my day off." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And of
I mean,
course, I collect tiaras to go with them, so and crowns.
but like also I feel like to a certain level, a ball gown is the perfect gear because it forces people when you've got a good hoop skirt and petticoat in there, they can't get too close to you. It's helping enforce that social distancing.
That's true. I should wear the now 'cause I can just, like, turn and knock someone. Oh, no, I'm kidding, that's rude. But, "Oh, yeah, 6 feet, everyone, 6 feet."
6 feet.
I think I did see on a blog someone made, like, a quarantine ball gown, a cosplayer. We should try to hunt that down and put it up. But she literally, if I remember right, made a hoop skirt that was that, like, 6 feet all around, kinda
Mhm,
as a joke
mhm,
to be like,
mhm,
"No, you may not participate. Go away."
mhm. I think that was so great. It was so great.
Mhm, mhm. Alright, you. What's your 3rd random fact?
Okay, third random fact. One of the best moments of my little cosplay life, and the moment that I was like, okay, you know what? If I never cosplay again, I can do so happy.
Mhm.
Is
Who was
my
in the
I so
yearbook?
I was cosplaying Ellie from The Last of Us 2. This was before the second game came out because the art got
Mm.
Naughty Good Dog released the art, and I knew I had to cosplay Ellie because I love my girl so much. You shot me in my girl, right?
Mhm.
So my cousin's husband, so technically my cousin-in-law, works for Sony and worked on the Naughty Dog on uh that both games.
Mhm.
Um, and he sent a picture of my Ellie cosplay to Neil Druckmann, the head of Naughty Dog, and he screenshotted the email response and sent it to me. And Neil Druckmann's words were, "That's awesome. That tattoo better be real." And I'm just like, Neil Druckmann approved of my Ellie cosplay and told me to get that tattoo for real. And I can die happy once I actually get that tattoo for real.
Right,
But
you're like, he
like,
told me, so."
he told me I have to. I do really want to get a modified version of that tattoo for real. But like, as such like a fan of those games, there's just something so satisfying, and every cosplayer knows this, having one of the creative minds, especially the lead creative mind
Mhm.
on something that you're cosplaying, recognize you and say that you did good is just like a oh moment. And I just
I hope you
like I
printed that out and framed it.
I think I did not, but it's still in my messages on my phone. So it,
Put it
it
in your,
makes me
like,
so
sewing
happy.
area.
I shut down like a mansplaining troll who was like judging my props on one of my cosplay photos with that. Like, well, Neil
Don't be those
Druckmann
people,
said,
y'all.
yeah, yeah, because I had at that point for that cosplay, because we didn't know much about what kind of gear that would be available in game two. So I
Mhm.
made props based on game one because it was like, well, that makes the most sense. And so I made a nail bomb, which is one of the weapons from the first game. And I did it out of a soup can, an empty soup can, with the lid open. So it was very easily displayable by any staff or security who wanted to look at it. You could peer in. And I punched holes in it with a nail. and then slid dull pencils, old pencils and colored pencils into those holes as a nail and then spray painted over the whole thing. So the whole thing was very dull. It was open at the top. It was very visible. I was able to actually take my lanyard strap and like loop it to my belt, like from one of the pencils on it. So the whole thing was very con safe, very friendly, all of that. Um, to make sure that, I was being responsible.
Yeah.
But I had this troll on a post that I put up of one of that, like, well, like judging, like, well, you don't know what kind of weapons are going to be available in the next game. And I was like, well, no, I don't, but this was available in the first game. And, you know, it stands to reason that there is a chance this will be available in the next game. And also Neil Druckmann himself saw this and said it was good. And the mansplaining troll responded with, well, I don't know who that is, but good for you. And I was like, then you get to shut up now.
Oh, please don't be a backseat driver on Facebook, everyone. No one likes that, and
Yeah.
oftentimes you get embarrassed.
Don't embarrass yourself like that, kids. Don't
No.
embarrass yourself. Don't mansplain me what my cosplay is supposed to look like when you don't even know it. And then I name drop the creator, the head of the whole freaking thing, and you don't know who that is. Like, that's just embarrassing for you. It is embarrassing. And okay, no, nail bombs weren't really a thing in the second game, but that does not
But they're part of
mean
the world,
they're
so
part
it's
of
a
the world.
weapon.
They are canonical part of the world. Yes.
I mean, we have plenty of things in our world. I mean, I'm not talking weapons, but like we have plenty of things in our world that aren't available in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Gasp.
When
Oh
you
my
name,
gosh.
yeah. Yeah, basically don't be the mansplainer who doesn't actually know what he's talking about, because that dude just embarrassed himself, and I just like, I could not. It's still, that whole story just makes me giggle from start to finish.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm like realizing that I literally look like I'm just fading into a black hole.
You do, and I love
I'm
that for you.
wearing no green. My chair and me. I mean, my kitty ears are the same color as the stars, so I can see why those are fading. I'm just gonna pretend, everyone, that I'm coming out of a portal. I'm just like, yes, I'm here. I'm teleporting. It's great.
Mhm.
Okay, fourth random fact. Fourth random fact. I mean, I feel like I could talk more about what I collect, but that's kind of like lame. What is the weirdest thing I've ever done? I mean, there was one time I like to prank my siblings growing up, so that's like my favorite thing ever. And all six of us are very competitive, so we would have competitions on who could scare the other ones more. And now I live with two people who enjoy terrifying me and keeping a list, so it backfired. But um, yeah, as a kid, one of the ways I got my siblings was we lived in East Texas on a like not on a farm, but it was a property with like 40 acres of like government planted woods. So if you've ever been in like a government planted forest, at least in Texas, they're literally planted in straight lines. So it's a bunch of very old pine trees that are rows and rows and rows for acres. So it's very creepy.
Yeah.
So and once you get like deep in it, it gets even creepier. So but we yeah, so I basically one night stood in the trees that were near the house and made noises and shined lights in my siblings' room until they came
You're
out, and then just did
terrible.
creepy things, and I have fun with that to this day of terrifying them. And then there was, like, the one time they were in the kitchen sink. No, they were in the kitchen at the sink, and I literally came out of the darkness because when you live in the country, I mean, you have opportunities. I came out of the darkness with, like, a clown mask and flew at the glass. Yeah, things I wouldn't do as an adult, but when you're kids.
When you're a kid, everything's a good idea.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that point, I was probably, like, 14, 15 doing that one.
Oh my god, I love it.
My mama whooped me for that one, so
Fair. I would have whooped you too. I would have
what?
congratulated you afterwards with like a nice ice cream sandwich and a high five, but
And then you're grounded, there's no Wi-Fi password.
yeah.
Oh, Okay, what is your
Okay.
number 4? I feel like we should have beverages every show. I'm just sitting here, Dr.
Right.
Pepper.
I'm just
Mm.
sponsor us. Let's see. My number 4. Well, let's see. Um, so I studied abroad for a year when I was in college to
Mm.
England. Um, but so I got to see and do a lot. But probably my favorite story from that is when I was exploring around Europe with a friend who I met at that school who was from Canada. So both of us were very much like, we need to take advantage of what we can find and just go with it.
Mhm.
And uh, for that, one of the countries we went to was Malta, which is, if you pull up Google Maps and you look at the the boot of Italy, and then
Mhm.
you zoom in about 50 times, zoom in a few more times after that, you'll get Malta. It's a tiny, 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 tiny little country. We went there. It is absolutely gorgeous. The whole country looks like it was sculpted out of sandstone, and then you walk into the churches and you're like, wait, am I in the Vatican? I'm confused. Um, Beautiful, beautiful, right? But like a lot of Europe, has a really robust public transit system
Oh,
that
yeah.
goes everywhere that you
Super
want to
jealous.
know. Frequent routes, super cheap. It was 50 cents in euros to take the bus from one end of the island to the other because it was
Mhm.
this big. But one thing I learned a couple of really valuable things about Maltese buses. Okay. So Maltese buses range from being made from the 60s to the 2000s. Um, and they don't seem to really retire buses. Like, you might get a bus that was made in the 60s. You might get one that was made like 5 years ago. You might get one that was made 20 years ago. You don't know until the bus shows up, right?
Mhm.
It's a whole range. The drivers decorate the back and front of their buses to just sort of like suit, like there's a little bit of that personal individual touch with the decor in the back window and the front. Very nice, very cute. Much like they are one of those European country that follow the English standard of,
Mm.
the different sides, right? Um, they will pack the buses very, very full to get wherever they need to be, and they do not close the bus doors. So what happened was my friend and I were getting on this old bus to go to a location, and it was already getting really full, to the point where people, like, the seats were gone. People were just standing in the aisle between the seats.
Mhm.
And my friend got on, and she stood in between the seats of the very front row. And I was like, well, I'm just going to have to catch the next bus and meet her later, right? Well, the bus driver just looks at me and looks at her, seeing that we're together, and just goes, come on, come on, come on, sit down. Like, what?
Where?
Where do you want me to sit down? Like, I get on the bus and just like look at him very confused and like just go to stand by my friend. Like there's no place to sit down, sir. I don't know if you've noticed this. No, 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 sit down. And so I'm like very confused, like, okay, I guess. And I go to sit down in front of my friend on the floor of this bus because I'm like not sure what he wants me to do at this point. He goes, no, 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 no. And he takes me by the arm and he sits me, no joke, on the dashboard of this bus. And then he goes. He just starts the bus and goes. So I am sitting on the dashboard of the bus. The doors are open. And just outside the doors, as we are just zooming through the countryside, taking the tightest turns and speeding around, like this guy was like California freeway levels of driving, okay? Like
My
he was just booking it. And he, outside this door, which is like 3 feet from my face, is sharp rocks and the ocean. That is it. That was everything. Like I was just gripping onto this dashboard for dear life because one wrong turn and one like faulty grip and I was going to go tumbling out those open doors, and if I was really lucky I wouldn't get a concussion on the rocks on my way down to the
Oh
ocean.
my
Like that.
god. This makes me think of a bus story I had in Edinburgh.
Oh gosh. Oh, Scotland, I love you.
Right, I literally, as soon as I can, I'm going back. Like, I miss
Oh
it.
girl,
I'm
yeah.
obsessed with that city.
Edinburgh was the best. Did you
Yeah.
do any of like the ghost tours in Edinburgh?
No,
Because
we
there
did
were
not
like
have time.
50.
Yeah, we wanted to do that. We did not have time. I think like our last trip when the trip when we were out there, um, it was definitely like we spent too much time, I think, in uh England, and so we were like, "Oh, we should have spent more time up in Scotland." Like we felt
Yeah,
like
because it's a
there's a few
long
places we
distance.
stopped. There's a few places we stopped along the way that we were like, if we were to go back, we'd have skipped them and spent more time in Edinburgh. Like we went there and we were like, "Why did we do 5 days in London? We could have been here." But
London's
yeah,
overrated, guys. You really only
it's
need
so
like two
overrated,
days.
everyone. Yeah, it's like, oh, like we had high tea, we did that thing. But Edinburgh,
You really just need
we
like
went on
1 or 2 days.
we went on a really pretty train ride that went um that's a little bit of a time. And then again goes against the coast. But once we got to Edinburgh, it was downpouring, as it does, which is
Mhm.
fine. And of course, if you haven't been there, it's very hilly, like
Mhm.
San Francisco.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're climbing this giant hill. We get to a bus, and I get on the bus with our luggage. And mind you, like we have giant luggage. Not gonna do that again either. Like, I'm like, I don't need this crap. I could have just worn this like a gazillion days and it'll be fine.
Mhm.
And so it's like really busy. It's like I think the middle of the day if I remember correctly, and we get on and it's everything's wet and we have all this luggage and there's no room. I think two of them got to sit, and I was either sitting or standing. I don't remember, but basically we start going down the hill and my luggage slips from my grasp and slides like starts sliding down the bus, and I'm like frantically like, "Oh my god, I'm not American." Like, and I'm trying to grab my stuff, and this literal babushka that's sitting next to us just starts cracking up. She's like this loses her mind and thinks it's the funniest thing ever about me
Oh
trying to chase
no.
my luggage. And yeah, that's my bus story. And then another time that I was on a bus, we were we were doing what is the name of the villages in England. There's a bunch of them. The Coswalds. Yes.
Mhm.
So we were in those and we got a bus, and I was very excited at the double decker buses that were all glass tops because I literally sat on the top and was just like, oh my gosh, while it was raining, face plastered. And
Mhm.
I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm above everyone. And it felt a little bit like the night bus because the roads there are so tiny and there's like cars. And
The roads
yeah,
were
because
not designed for automobiles.
no. And that's the thing is people don't realize like how small those countries are in relation to ours. So once you get over there, it's like really like cheap to get everywhere else basically once you get over to Europe. But yeah, so those are my best stories, and I feel like those are my last facts because I was like thinking about I have fond memories of in the rain on the top of this glass box, like peering out, like oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it felt like a
Yeah.
video game I couldn't control.
I got okay, so I went up to I when I studied abroad, I joined a travel society, or which is
Hmm.
society was the fancy word for college club. Um, because the school that I went to was like 40% international students.
Mm.
So they just there was a lot of interest in exploring around, and I mean Europe seems to be fairly norm for people to go outside their home country for education. Um, Probably less so for England now that they've left the UN, but so it goes. Um, but we went around to a variety of places. Edinburgh was one of them. I did some ghost tours under the city that were all plague related. touched some walls under the city that then I was told immediately after, oh, you shouldn't do that because there's like bone dust in those from people who burned alive. And I was like, oh,
Let me wash my hands
neat.
promptly. Thanks.
Oh God. All right. That's fine. But as far as like that vein of like the macabre goes, so I went to Paris and I went to the catacombs under the city. I got separated from my tour group.
That's always scary. I feel like down
I
there I'd be a
was
little bit like, I'm unnerved. I'm
I was
unnerved.
alone in a maze of skeletons underneath Paris for like an hour. It was amazing. Like it was okay. So the way that they've got it blocked off, I never actually had a full on panic. And I think part of the reason is because they plan for idiot tourists like me.
Which is nice.
Yeah, it's great. Where it it is a maze and it isn't. Whereas you got all these twisty turning corridors and things like that, but you don't reach a fork in the road where like you don't know where to go next. There's one path, and as long as you don't forget where you came from, like, okay, did I come from behind me or ahead of me? Like if you just stay one course, you're gonna come out the other end. And I
That
did
makes sense.
eventually come out the other end. Um, but yeah, totally got separated from my tour group like 20 minutes in, 10, 20 minutes in, and then for the next like hour I was alone under Paris surrounded by these skeletal bodies because the catacombs, for those who don't know, the catacombs came into existence because they literally, I think also during the plague, ran out of room in the graveyards. And so they just started digging up bodies and they put the skeletons under the city. And then some monks were like, well, we should arrange these nicely. So we're going to make pillars and walls and fences out of human remains. It's nuts. But it was
Yeah.
really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
It
That's
was,
one of the things we have on our list to go back because there's several countries we didn't make it to because you overplan. So you get over there and you're like, I'm gonna do all these things. And you're like, no, I actually want to take time
mhm.
to enjoy this and just like
Yeah.
come back a separate
It's
time.
one of those like you both underestimate and overestimate
Hmm.
the size of Europe because it's a lot smaller than the US. So
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I'm fine, especially when you're from a big state like we are in California.
And I'm from
Um
Texas. So
yeah, California or Texas where you're from a big state, you're like, well, I know that. So, but it still takes a decent amount of time. Like Scotland to England takes like a good 7 to 9 hours depending on how you get there. um that's a long days of travel. You're going to want to spend a couple days to make that feel worth it. um so it's easy to get everywhere, but there's so much in all of those locations that you really need to plan out at least 2 days, 1 to 2 solid days that aren't travel days per location.
mhm. If you want to absorb stuff. And like us, we didn't go with any like tour groups or anything because we
Mhm.
like to go off the beaten path
Mhm.
and explore more like mom and pop stuff and historical stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so we just kind of did our own thing. But yeah, that's the thing is we regretted spending as much time in London as we did and wish we would have spent more time in Edinburgh.
Yeah, there's
But
there's a lot more to see. I
next
like
time, you
London
always
is
learn.
great, don't get me wrong. I thoroughly enjoy London, but especially if you pick England as your hub point, everything goes through London. You are going to see London.
Yeah, everything.
Like anytime when I was abroad, because we were like an hour northeast of London.
Hmm.
If I wanted to go slightly like more, if my ultimate destination was more north than where I was, a lot of times I would have to backtrack to London to get onto a train to get me back up
Yep.
to where I wanted to go. London is just where you end up as your
All
central
roads lead
hub.
to London.
Hmm. So factor that in.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. What are some random facts you guys want to know about us?
Hmm.
Definitely leave them for us on a comment, on a post, whatever. We will see it and we can answer those. I know this turned kind of like into like lo-fi chat travel
Hmm.
tips for the UK. But yes, we love you guys. Thank you guys for listening as always. We're excited to get back on cons and cosplay stuff and do some in-person videos. Yeah, if there's any content you guys ever want to see, let us know and be sure to check out other great Project Nerd content. My name is Sarah and I'm here with
Stephanie,
and we are Con Moms. Thanks for watching. Bye.
go brush your teeth.